Yeah, um, yo, everybody, it's CK here, and we're here live. We're running a bit late, like 9 minutes, but yeah, we're here. I'm gonna let everybody introduce themselves before we get into what in the top right. That's Curran.
What's up? Let's go, guys. It's been a good weekend. What are we saying?
Um, in the bottom below me is George. He's always below me. George.
How we doing, Christina? I'm doing okay. Currently struggling through it, but I'm happy about the game, man. I'm telling you right now, this was the most complete Mikel Arteta performance of his tenure. Not just in spurts, but the absolute complete, both on and off the ball. And we're gonna seriously have to talk about everything because I don't think I've been more excited about what you could do with this team. He did exactly everything I wanted, but also more. He added some tweaks. I don't think I've seen too much analysis on the timeline that's talked about some of the pressing changes and the build-up stuff that we did because, you know, I think people took this game in isolation and they just said, maybe we did a Spurs moment, but we controlled the narrative from start to finish. Z got his possession that he really wanted. And it was amazing to see. It really was. So, yeah, I'm excited.
And yeah, in the bottom right of your screen, I think. Yeah, we've got
Jeez.
Z.
Yeah, man. Now, I wish I could show you my face probably soon, but yeah, I got a massive smile on my face. That performance did me really well, honestly. We had a good dominating performance for 75, 80 minutes. And yeah, like it was something that, I was wanting. And to beat Martinez, to beat that shitty Villa, what more can you ask for, man? Honestly. So
It was a
happy.
day for agendas, wasn't it?
Yeah, it
When
was.
you start to deep it, Martinez error, he beat the Dean Smith allegations. He beat the he can't win in ideal conditions allegations. Like when you start to deep the amount of stuff that we've proven, can he sustain a performance for 90 minutes? Can he, can he create chances at volume? Yes, he can. I think when we were going into the half, it was something like 14 chances created. I think
14 shots.
14 shots, but 3 big chances created and 0 for Villa. Like there wasn't one.
Yeah, they
In
only
many
had a corner.
respects, yeah, in many respects, it was the perfect coaching. Like you don't get much better. And I can't wait to get into the tactics of it because I really think, although Louise was something I didn't think was something he would do, it was brilliant. But there was a lot of changes in the buildup that we did very specifically, and our pressing that helped us this game. And I think Nuno Tavares very underrated role in helping us dominate the way that we did. He had an excellent game. Ben White, his best on the ball performance. And for me, ESR man of the match type stuff. And this kid finally showed everybody who he is. I think he gave a performance that we finally can see that he's arrived. It's his team in a sense. And I just don't think I've seen that authority from him in both boxes. And this game in particular, he was just everywhere. And that boy deserves all the praise he can get because he's rising and he's rising quick. Here in BoP, we've said, and in the past I've got cooked from some pretty big people, but we've said that his potential is limitless. And, we're going to see that he's going to become one of the best attacking midfielders kind of his generation. He really is. How high he goes, I think depends on injury, but talent wise, this kid is just too good.
Man, yeah. I went to the game. It was a great game to watch. Not much I could hope more for. I was hoping for Villa to score. Like really hoping for Villa to score going into that game because the first half was complete and utter domination. Like I was not worried one bit in the first half that they'd score. Like for them to have 0 shots and one corner, 0 shots, nothing attempted. They had 0 XG. And that was the first time I've seen in a long time any team have that. But yeah, like what are your initial? Because George just said his. What are you guys' initial thoughts on that overview on the game?
Well, for me, it was nice to see. The main thing for me was it was nice to see both Sambi and Partey push up for once, because, for example, Brighton or even Crystal Palace, both of them were caught a bit further back. We were seeing Partey sometimes in the single pivot on the halfway line. It was nice to see both of them close, compact together, but higher up, and you have the three. So you have your Tommy, White, and Gabriel in the middle, and you can see White, if we, as George was saying, making these gut busting these lung busting runs through the middle and going into the opposition half to start progression as well. So you have different options progression wise. The structure was there, and it was nice to see. Because the thing is, what's been annoying me, because I love Kieran, but when you have Kieran and he's not overlapping, it does hamper you a little bit. I need to see. If I'm Mikel, I show this performance to Kieran from Nuno and be like, go to him. Look, you just need to do what you've been doing for the last year. Just overlap. Go on the overlap way. That's where we need you. We need you to give Emil an option out wide. You can cross in. You can affect play in the final third. I don't need this sort of low down Kieran. I need him higher. That's one thing I would take away. The second thing is for me, if you look at Bukayo and you look at Laka, so George mentioned already the Louise point, so we might as well get into that. Laka on Louise was, I think, what turned the game in our favour, because Douglas Louise plays a massive role in their build-up. So he is the person that initiates their second action most of the time. And when you take him out the game, they kind of ran out of options, and you can exploit the likes of Tyrant Mings. You can exploit even an Ezri Konsa, or even Target on the other side, or Cash. Like their defenders were easily exploited, and especially when they were in a 3 in the back, because I don't think they have the spacing down yet to play 3 in the back. So they were definitely like bunching together or spreading out too wide, and it left, for example, channels open on that right-hand side a lot for Bukayo, who was cutting it and making runs in that first half. So if I'm Dean Smith, I think, I'm never going to play 3 at the back for a while until I get it down, because everyone just thinks, oh, team's struggling, just go 3 at the back. No, you have to have a balance of the 3. You have to understand what your roles are in that 3. You can't just have people just chuck 3 defenders together and that makes a 3 at the back. I mean, it can cover for defensive lapses, but the fact of the matter is if you don't have players that understand how to space themselves in that 3, you're easily caught out, because you have width either side, because you're playing your fullbacks higher. So if you have width either side and you're not covering that width, you're going to run into problems, and that's what we did to Villa. We exploited width. We had Bukayo and Nuno, and we had players cutting in behind. So we had overloads wide, and then when on transition, we had Laka defending on Louise, which was major. We took McGinn out the game as well quite easily, because when you have that dynamic, that initial dynamic, you have Louise and McGinn, they kind of sit and they try to progress the ball up, both of them. And when you take one out of the game, it kind of just hampers both of them. And that's what we saw a lot. They were struggled in transition a lot, and they didn't really have a way out. And that's what we've been trying to say here on BoP is, if you sustain pressure and you force turnovers continuously, that is the best way to win games, because you're creating chances from opposition possession, and you're by creating even more pressure, it's basically positive feedback in the scientific world. It's basically you're doing things, and that's creating an even more positive effect on the team. So in terms of performances, I think a lot of good performances. I think Laka should start, but I'm going to let George go because I can feel him yawning from here. So take it away, buddy.
No, look, so I think we just got to talk about some of the changes that, Mikel Arteta did for dealing with Villa. So we highlighted in the preview that Villa would likely do a 3-4-3, right? And we highlighted the potential of that midfield transition being very key to kind of blocking. And typically when we look at this kind of overall structure of Mikel, like we know that we like to build typically in like a 3-2-5, that we know that goes into this 2-3-5 in the final third. And a lot of times we use a kind of pressing structure that we've talked about on the channel, like a 3-2-2-3, where you have this box in the midfield. And the reason was that Villa were pressing in a 3-4-3, and Mikel very smartly, I didn't even think that he would do this, but he changed the pressing structure. We didn't do that 3-2-2-3. What he did was he dropped Gabriel and Ben White, and Ramsdale was that added third man in the 3. But really what you had on the pitch was this 2-4-4. So our fullback stayed wide, they maintained the width, but then our pivot was very close together. You no longer had, Thomas Partey on an island, and when Sambi would drop, Thomas would go up. When kind of the vice versa happened on each side, and if Partey dropped, Lukunga would step up, and it was a very cohesive performance between the two. They clearly spent a lot of time with them, kind of having them on a string, I like to call it, with my midfielders, and it was very easy to see that they were understanding when to push and when to stay. And that was probably the biggest change when we're looking at central gaps in midfield. So that kind of initial 2-4-4 was really what allowed us to break out every single time. And then when you're looking at it off the ball, when Villa did have possession, which was very minimal, kind of especially in that first half, what you really got was, this 3-4-1-2, like Kern was saying, when, you had Lacazette, who was just following Douglas Luiz. But what the real big issue was, you kind of had Bukayo Saka, who I think had a very poor game on the ball. He was very wasteful in front of goal. But he was very crucial to the pressing structure. Like, this is the point that you get when you compare the Pepe and the Saka debates in terms of output, and you get when you look at both kind of players. Because look, they can both have good or bad games. And for me, I don't think this was Saka's best game, but off the ball, he was absolutely critical to ensuring that we were able to press Tyrone Mings and especially Emi Martinez. So when we had this structure, if you looked at it, Bukayo Saka was showing Tyrone Mings kind of the center of the pitch constantly. He shaped his body in a way that he was cutting off the passing lane to Matt Target, which was on his left. What that did is, with Lacazette kind of man-marking Luiz, Tyrone Mings got scared and kept passing back, and that was the trigger for Aubameyang to continuously press him. And that's how we regained possession just so many times. In fact, Emi Buendia got so pissed off of the lack of service that he would drop into the pivot, and he still wasn't able to really influence play. And I think it was just brilliant, because that was completely Mikel Arteta's coaching. I'm not having this bullshit on the timeline that people are saying this was just a poor Aston Villa performance. No, we made them poor. The tactic to have kind of Ramsdale at the back and split Gabriel and White and move to more of a 2-4-4 was a change from our 3-2-2-3. It was very much adapted to the opposition. It created overloads in the back and let us get out very, very easy. Off the ball, we suffocated Villa with a press. And you know what I think for the first time, what we did see is when you finally got into the final third with this 2-3-5 that we've seen kind of in the past, what you found was there was quicker combinations. There were people dominating their space. The second balls were being won right away. There was a clear aggression. And, I think there was one quote that really impressed me with, Smith Rowe kind of after the game, where he talked about how that they had gone through this pressing and training for so long. And it was just really nice to have it kind of validated. I'm paraphrasing his quote, but, he said it was nice to validate what that work on the training pitch did. And so for me, I just think that the way that we coordinated our 4-2-3-1, it's the play. Everybody knows I'm not a fan of the 4-3-3. I've maybe helped convert one of the panel. I'm hoping to convert everybody. But the key is, it's not just so much formation here, because I think we even talked about it on the preview, where it isn't just individual that was kind of the fault for Crystal Palace and as well as Brighton. The issue was the midfield gaps. This gap in midfield was really what was causing us to draw games, to lose our structure, regardless of a 4-3-3. Because even though if I don't like a 4-3-3, the gaps in midfield can't continue. And, you can make them work in a 4-3-3. It's not that it can't work, and it will never happen. But you cannot leave the amount of gaps and space that we did, because you're going to get killed in this league. And so really, when I do look at this game, I just see a return to central compactness. So Mikel won't galaxy brain. He sees what he's done, and it produced his most complete performance both on and off the ball in his entire tenure. So for me, I just think this first half was really impeccable, guys. Like, I'm looking at the lineup, and, I was like, look, I'm happy that we evidently are moving to a more traditional pivot, but I was still unsure whether Lukunga was going to perform the role that we wanted him to perform. And, that change and buildup was genius. Like, I didn't think of it. I don't know if many people predicted that to happen, but he showed an ability to adapt. And like I said, Mikel Arteta absolutely can adapt to unideal situations. He can. This notion that he can't is ridiculous. It's narrative. It's narrative to prove a point for people that are trying to search for a magic pill to switch this team's performances, because we can see an opportunity for top four. By the way, things that many people critiqued us for kind of predicting in the past, but really they're coming to light. And I think people are finally realizing that there is an opportunity here to sneak in. There is an opportunity to take advantage. And when we don't do that as a team, you tend to whitewash the past and use a magic pill that if we removed this, the team would be successful. So, yeah, I just think for me, in general, when you're looking at a 4-3-3, the biggest thing that you want as a coach is that your 2 8s in that kind of system, in that 3-man system, have to be very, very tight. And if one of your 8 is higher up, your fullback has to fall into that space so that you're always having 4 men, in theory, in the middle. And this is the case with a pivot. This is the case with a 4-3-3. So, for example, if you have your 8, that's the right center mid 8, which is ESR that we had in the past, and if he was overlapping, you needed Tommy to be a very secure option to move into the midfield, and that would form your 4 along with the other 8 and, kind of your winger. And so that's how you kind of get around central compactness in a 4-3-3 typically, right? You invert your fullbacks to add a player there. But when you're in a pivot, this is just a lot easier to manifest because the player's already there and you're able to shoot people farther up. And so that's why I like it over. But really, again, it's about closing those gaps, and we did it beautifully. So that first half was just a masterclass for me on and off the ball. Again, we changed our build-up, we changed our counter press structure, and in the end, we kept our fundamentals of a 2-3-5 that gave us huge chances, and we ended the half with 0 chances created for the other team, 0 XG for the other team, while we similarly had roughly 2.45 XG kind of to end the half alone. Yeah, Chris, these stats, like, they speak for themselves. It's actually ridiculous. This is the absolute epitome of complete and utter domination, both of your space, but also kind of your team. And so for me, this is why I'm excited, though. So the same way I got so upset on the last podcast about sustainability, why I'm so excited is I can see this structure providing the platform for us to do this again in the future. This is very easily to be replicated. So you know what? Leicester, they're another team that I think, for me, are a better Villa, but they play very similar structures, particularly with Maddison right now. They're not really moving to that 4-4-2. They're still in that kind of 3-4-3, and especially with their injuries. And they're just a better version of Villa that have the potential to go 4-4-2. So for me, it was very important that we matched up man for man. And I think that we're going to see a very similar structure going to Leicester, but that's for the preview pod there. But anyways, I just think that first half, most complete performance. And again, for me, we can go into individual players, but that structure change, I just wanted to make sure everyone saw and understood, because that was why we won. That was why we dominated so clearly. It wasn't because of individuals' mentality. There was a clear structure change, very, very clear, and that can't be debated. So I just think we're going to be able to see it a lot more clearly in the next couple of games.
Yeah, for me, like, immediately I noticed a difference when, like, 5 minutes in, I'm seeing Laka always behind Oba on Luis, and Luis was struggling to be involved in build up, and then, as you said, Saka curved his pressing shape, making it harder for what's his name, Mings, to play the ball to the left back. But that started forcing Emi Martinez to go long, to target all the time, and they allowed Tomiyasu to press him really high. Like, I think everything in the first half just went our way, and the shape, the pivot, Pai and Lokonga was switching, who was going higher, who was staying deeper, and overall probably next to each other a lot of the time. And the passing map even, like, proves that, like, Pai and Lokonga in the shape were. This is from That Crab on Twitter. Yes, sorry, Kyle. But yeah, the passing shape was very great. Like, for me, even though Emil was man of the match, I think Ben White was great and got more confidence on the ball. We've seen in the past week against Villa and Palace where he's starting to step into midfield more and show his ball carrying abilities. And I think that just came with the consistent great off the ball games. And now he's trying to flourish on the ball and has more confidence. And yeah, Z, you never gave your thoughts on the game before we go really in depth.
No, I mean, look, you guys obviously described the game very, very well, and props to George actually mirroring exactly what I was thinking. But one of the main things that I was saying in the preview as well was the fact that I wanted us to continue on the momentum that we gained in the last 10 minutes against Palace to this game. And boy, did we do that. We basically transmit that energy, and the way we pressed Villa was absolutely beautiful. And Luis wasn't able to get hold of the ball at all. And it seemed like, we had the amount of close combinations we had on the pitch. It was beautiful to see. Man, one of the most interesting things was the fact that I felt like Sambi played with a lot more freedom. I felt like Sambi, he kind of simplified a lot more things on the pitch, and he was a lot more direct actually. But there was a lot more understanding, and I feel like simplifying his role in the pivot is much better for him, much better for him, and his overall understanding of, in the team. And I think one of the best things that Arteta did was basically play all the players in their right comfortable positions, and that's something that he hasn't been doing in the last few games. I think he's trying to basically move over to the 4-3-3, and ultimately he's probably realizing, what, they're not ready just yet. So he's like, okay, you know what, let's revert back to the 4-2-3-1 and play all the players there. And that's something, it worked, and it was I was really happy with the result. One thing though, I really wanted to pick out was the general partnership with Tomiyasu and Saka. I was watching them quite closely, and it just seemed like Saka grew. He was just just very frustrated during the game with Tomiyasu. I think Tomiyasu, I don't know what it is yet. It's just a confidence issue, or it's just they haven't established a relationship fully yet. But Saka was getting really annoyed with the fact that he wasn't getting the ball on time, and he wasn't making the overlapping runs, and you could tell towards the end of the game, like Saka just wasn't happy generally with his performance. And I think that's something that we have to watch closely and see if they can develop a relationship, and yeah, because that's another part of the game we need to refine. So yeah.
Well, first half, from what George, you're muted by the way, but first half, Tomiyasu Villa gave Tomiyasu this license to drive and underlap Saka, so he was inside a lot, combining with Laka. But Saka himself, like, it was probably the poorest on the ball of any player from our team the whole game. Like, everybody else was great on the ball, but Saka had many chances to score. But yeah, George, go on, and you're muted. Unmute.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that Tomiyasu had a really poor technical performance though. Like when he was starting, and I think that was it. Like he wasn't releasing the ball quickly to Saka at all. But at the same token, again, Saka had a poor on-the-ball performance. It can happen. I think he's been tired for a little bit, and I think he's suffered from playing on the left. He needs his comfortability back in terms of on the right. And I do think that it'd be nice if we could just play through it, in my opinion, because what he gave you off the ball was exactly why, you make that decision. Even if he has a very poor day on the ball, and, even if he is struggling himself, his ability off the ball allows you to press the way that we did. Like, we don't get a successful press with Saka not performing that role as part of the two. Like, when Laka is following Douglas Luiz, Saka is stepping up. Saka's stepping up a lot higher, and he's blocking the passing lane. We don't get that pressing structure if Pepe's playing. I hate to be that guy, but so look, Tomiyasu for me, he's having a little bit of a rough time in terms of his technical ability, and I think personally because he's a lot more comfortable centrally, especially receiving, and I think we're having him a lot more touch line in terms of his receiving, and for him, he just needs to learn how to set it a little bit properly because he receives kind of on his right foot, but he likes to drive with his left, and I think right now he's mixing up when to release the ball, and that kind of can hurt him if he is more touchline because you don't have the time on the wing. You got to release the ball very quickly. So it's just a little thing that, he just has to work out a bit. And again, I think he's much more of a center back in those areas than he is of a traditional fullback. And so what that means is the way he shapes his ball and his kind of his gait receiving, it's not quick and nippy, which is what you really need in those situations. It is a little bit more cumbersome in terms of how he moves. And I don't think it's a big issue, but, it just means he's got to release the ball a little bit quicker. That's all. And I think the one thing that helped this game, though, was Ben White taking over those progression kind of reins. And I think that'll get Tommy farther up the pitch a lot more, and he doesn't have to worry about that. I don't think it's his game, so I'm not going to hammer him for it. Of course, he can do it, and he's able to do that role. It's just I feel Ben White is a lot more capable, and he's gaining a lot more status in the team. He's finally, that breaking line pass. I don't know what the minute was, but when he took it from basically hour half and said screw this, and he dribbles past 6 players legitimately up the pitch, like that flexibility that it gives you is immense. And Gabriel, I've been saying it for time. Gabriel has worked immensely on his receiving and his disguised passes between the lines. It was so evident today, or not today, but on Friday when we played, that he would receive and fire it very, very quickly between the lines to Emile Smith-Rowe, breaking them very consistently. And he's worked on this in the summer. Anyone thinking that it didn't are crazy. The technical improvement has been immense. It's clear that they've really worked on his body shape, which was very unorthodox in terms of receiving and then setting himself up for the pass. But he's becoming really, really good at receiving, but setting himself up for the next pass in one fluid motion. Thomas Partey has probably that skill in abundance, and he's the best in the squad at it. But Gabriel really improved in that aspect. I actually think he struggled a little bit in terms of, maybe adding that aerial ability in the box attacking wise this game. Partey took over that, and I think special
every time.
Yeah, and special mention has to go to Nicholas Jover, because another tactical thing that I don't know if people notice, we clearly targeted the near post. That was evident in terms of, how it's not just Partey and how he got his XG, which I think a lot of his chances came from set pieces as well. But
yeah,
Nicholas
both the bar
clearly
and the thing.
issue.
Yeah, both the bar and the goal were off set pieces. So yeah, I mean, on Nicholas Jover, even with Pepe, when he was taking the corner kicks, we were always targeting that. Even if Pepe wasn't getting past the first man, his balls were aiming towards that near post. We weren't going far post. We were looking to cut across and then have people hit balls, either glancing headers or a foot or something like this. It seems to be our outlet and our way of doing things. So yeah, so I really do think with the set pieces, it was even in preseason it was looking like we were.
Take that off.
I got. Thank you. And I've infected people. What can I say?
Like we noticed that Tyrone Mings typically defends the near post for Villa, and
with
the
a
one
Ming
thing with Tyrone Mings,
he was bad.
He was poor himself, but I think individually that was the greatest aspect, that you can nick onto the far post. Like we seem to be doing this as a tactic where we do want to not necessarily clear the first man, but use it as like a ping to go further into the back post. Like that seems to be our tactic that we've done all season. And, I think he deserves special credit, because again, that was a tactical thing that they isolated and said, look, Mings, while he's very, very tall, he's poor in dominating a space. And so for me, that's why they basically man marked. And, look, Partey isn't known for his aerial ability. It was very much a tactic about making sure that you could fire it off to him. And he did very, very well in terms of kind of attacking that space, but letting it go to the back post. And of course, he got his hit off the woodwork, but he just kept running near post.
The delivery from Saka and Smith Rowe all game was great. Like from corners, from free kicks, like that. Just when he hit the post, it was a 19th minute free kick that Saka took. So like we had many chances from corners, but it was great to have the variety in the chances though, because we had the lack of penalty from combination play. We had Saka's chance from a ball across the box from Tavares. Like our chances were coming from one attacking pattern, or like we play around and cut back. It was like so varied and unpredictable that it is our best performance we've seen in a Mikel.
Yeah, no, honestly, it's a shame that our goals came from set pieces, because some of the passages of play that we were doing deserved a goal. Like there was a point where I think it was Tavares that did a cutback, and Saka hit, I think, straight at Martinez. And if that went in, that was one of the most beautiful passages of play I've seen us this season. We honestly deserved more goals, man. Should have been 4 or 5.
I'm happy we didn't get more though. Like honestly, I was sitting there thinking we could get like 5 goals. It would be great feeling, but like in the back of my mind, I was just thinking 3-1, and it did
for the
come.
Predictions.
It did come. Like told you, man, they were going to get injured.
Honestly, I think me and George were both saying we wouldn't have, like, when the first goal went in, I was like, I wouldn't, like, it was like either we score or just score one of like the last kick of the game or something. Just don't let it end 3-1. I just didn't want it to end 3-3.
I'll be honest. The first 5 minutes, I wasn't sure if Mikel would really learn. I'll be honest with you, and that's why I didn't go much higher. I was very concerned if he would actually do all of those changes. And I think it was going to be a much closer game than it was. But within 5 minutes, I'm like, this could be a huge scoreline. We have their number, and that tactic about Luiz was just immense. For me, I wanted a City type of differential so we could block off the goal difference, and maybe for the predictions, no, but I wanted it for this team only because I think
the narrative would have been crazy.
Yeah, like I think we're due a 5-0. This team has the potential. Like the way that we're playing right now and how we are able to dominate space, we're absolutely moving towards a direction that we're going to have a huge kind of 5-0 type of score line where you're going to see that blowout. And I'm just waiting for it. Again, I think this was the most complete performance on and off the ball that we've seen from Mikel Arteta's tenure as a whole, and it was just excellent to see. And I just think you have to carry that same energy, that if you're going to be as angry as we were, against Palace, for justifiably so, I might add, but if you're going to be that angry, you have to carry the same energy, and you have to give him his credit, because that man, guys, look, in terms of Villa, no one's isolated Luiz like that in the season. No one has done that tactic, and that was not borrowed from other people. That was purely Mikel. No one attacked their 3-4-3 with a 2-4-4. That pressing or that build-up change was very crucial to us winning the game. And then finally, when you look at the pressing structure, I think a lot of teams tried to match Villa, but the idea to stick somebody on Luiz was just something that no one thought of, and it ruined them. It really did. Buendia was coming deep to the pivot because he had no joy, and he still didn't do anything consequential. So
5.2
for me,
just
excellent performance. But
they look clueless after the first 5 minutes, because normally what they do is someone runs or makes driving runs down the left, and then they overload our right back. That's how they scored their goals last season. But this season, they just started putting the ball over the top, and our backline was squeezed with Ramsdale. So it was either Ramsdale would comfortably come out and collect the ball, or Gabriel would just win his draw. And they were so poor up until the 80th minute. But the tactics were great. I think I wasn't scared for us to concede the whole 90 minutes, but I wanted us to concede.
Just so you can win your bet, yeah?
Honestly, for Mikel, I think that type of performance is great, especially after, because there was pressure riding on it, especially everywhere. Even we weren't as confident as confident.
I mean, I said 1-0. I said 1-0. I wasn't confident at all, because I thought
we weren't confident as we are usually. Even George changed his prediction last minute. He wasn't sure about Mikel sticking to the plan, but for him to prove essentially everyone wrong and completely outsmart Dean Smith was great to see. And
you know what it is? It's 2 games on the trot. That's what it was. It was Brighton and Palace, where it's just like you can see, you can understand why he's doing the things he's doing, but they don't make sense, and they're not what we think. What I think all of us think he should be doing. Partey single pivot hasn't worked at all this season. It's just not worked, and hopefully the experiment is over and we just see what's worked this game, because there's a couple of things. I mean, even in that last 10 minutes, I mean, we'll discuss it, but that last 10 minutes when Odegaard came on, and then we kind of took the ball, the gas off a little bit, and just sort of went into that. It wasn't like we were playing badly. I just felt like we took the gas off, the brake off.
I think we gassed out. I just think our players gassed out.
That's true as well.
I said it to Haas after the game. After 70 minutes, generally we dominate for 70 minutes. It was better 70 minutes from us than we've ever had. But our players are just young and they gassed out. I think by the end of the season we'll see a lot less of it. But generally, that's why
to do with their physical development too.
They're young. They're very young players.
The only one that didn't really gas out was Oba, but then he got injured. Not injured, but tackled, and then Martinelli came on.
But I think that's the reason, though. If I really had to criticize, though, when you're looking at the second kind of half in general, right? Like we definitely took our foot off the gas in a sense, but also you're 3-0 up there. So like I understand it. You know, I'm not upset at it. But for me, in order to control the game a lot more, I could see the energy dropping, and those were the wrong subs for me to make. I think I could understand Ainsley and, you know, Odegaard, but he wanted more legs in midfield. He wanted to keep up the press, essentially.
Yeah.
He wanted them to kind of push up a lot higher. And, you know, look, Odegaard, again, like I think he was poor in his cameo, and I think Ainsley was very poor. Like I think for him, I would have wanted them to have more impetus, because Laka showed you from the previous game that if you have a performance that's excellent, you get yourself into contention for the starting 11. And I just don't think that, you know, I really don't think that they did enough. And for me, I've always said El Neni and Martinelli were going to be my two subs about increasing the tempo of the game. And so I think there must be an off the pitch decision being made about not to fund El Neni's minutes in a sense, because for me, it doesn't really make sense that you wouldn't add legs to the midfield that can press up higher. And if you wanted Ainsley to do it, you know, he's shown in the past to be able to do it, but, you know, he just had a poor performance. So for me, I think Martinelli should have had a little bit more minutes. That's probably my only one gripe. You know, I would have liked it at the 65th. Yeah, and again, but the only issue with that is, you know, you'd have to move Emil central and have Emil on Laka, which again isn't ideal because you ran his socks off. So I think
he was the first to gas out. Like he was done first. Like
he was.
Like that left hand side of ours was incredible all night. Like Tavares did so well that people started telling me that you should start over Tierney, and even though I disagree with that, like for the recruitment to create a debate like that for us is very good, because last season was once Tierney's out, the whole game plan changes because you have no left back that can overlap and create the same dynamic. But I think I've been talking about it enough, and I just want to bring up the prediction. So this is the predictions. Current 1-0, CK 3-1. This was the table before. The table hasn't changed since game week 6. This has been the same table since game week 6, and now the table is looking at this. So I'm 2 points off Georgia. Let's hope I get the Villa, the Leeds game. Leeds, innit?
Leeds, yeah.
Leeds.
Yeah, the Leeds game, right?
What do you mean you lead? What do you mean? Is it Leeds? You're going to it. Like,
I forgot, man. I've been going.
You're just an addict. That's what it is. You're just an addict.
It's got me on lock, man. I've heard every game. But it's been fun to watch. But yeah, George, as I said in my vlog, I'm coming for you, George.
I'm calm. You come for the king, don't miss. So essentially, though, like getting back to the game,
stop.
I think in the I don't think so. In terms of I think the second half, the one thing that I do want to see is I think Odegaard needs a rest personally, and I don't think Leicester is the game for him. You're looking at another midfield now that are high transition threat, very similar to Villa. Like you're looking at a very similar type of team. You know, the dangers that you're looking at there. It's just they've got a little bit more quality, in my opinion, in their transition than Villa do. So for me, you can't have him have a big feature of the game. And I'm unsure if Lacazette can perform a similar role for us with James Maddison, which is going to be kind of the man that you would want to replicate this kind of game plan with, because James Maddison is really responsible for helping them build up, really. And so they've got a lot more responsibility on Boubakary Soumaré, who everyone knows, I know very, very well. But I think for me, the issue that they're having right now is James Maddison is opening his legs. Like that's why they've really kind of increased in performances, and they finally got some build-up people at the back that can help move their transition. So it's going to be a very difficult game. But if we're going to isolate James Maddison, which I think would be the play, you're going to have to I don't know if Lacazette can do it, I'll be honest with you, especially away. He hasn't shown consistently in his career that he performs away from home. So if he does, I'd be okay, given the type
of work rate. It's work rate. It's not about the actual output. It's about work rate. If you can just stick on him.
The
He just
trouble
has
is,
to stick
Corinne,
him.
he's not that physical away. Like that performance about him being up for the fight, he doesn't do that away from home. And, that is the difference. Look, if he can do it, excellent. I'm not going to sit there and complain, but it will be a very interesting tactic, I think. I think there will be more spaces in Leicester than there will be with Villa. I think we dominated excellently versus Villa. I don't know if we get that same level of domination. I think it's going to be a little bit more give and take. So yeah, I'm
Leicester
I'm
have
very
allowed they have allowed space in transition recently, even though they've
yes.
done well in transition, but they've allowed space in transition all season, and
It's
you won't
because
be
of their
able,
middle, Chris. Like they don't like
yeah.
you don't have a balance with Samare as well as Tielemans and Madison. Like that's their central balance in a sense, and it's very very difficult to maintain that, and especially with their back line. So Yanshu is going to be a pressing trigger, but now I'm getting away and we're going into the preview of Leicester. But look, for this performance again, I think second half the only issue I have is that the subs didn't perform up to the standard that we really need. I think that the subs needed to add the energy. And look, it's not a worry, but they can never do it. But for me, that needs to be the ploy. Like we need to use this sub bench. And I highlighted this in the past. I think subs, we got to stop looking at subs as a bad thing. And when you give players minutes, because it's going to become a point where we're going to use some subs constantly as finishers to end a game. And that is going to be needed for us to be successful, especially as our team struggles to up their fitness to perform the pressing that we need to the same level. And I think Granit Xhaka lets us press a lot more and longer because he's a phenomenon himself in terms of stamina. But really, while we work through this inconsistency with physical development of youngsters, we need the subs bench to provide that punch. And so that's probably my only con for this game.
Yeah, I really
Just let me
disagree with
let me
this.
let me take this. Let me just take this quickly, because look, I understand where people are coming from. That like where are we at right now? Like, are we saying that Leicester? Do you really think? Are we saying that Leicester are a better team than us right now? Does anyone here think that Leicester are a better team than us right now?
No,
I don't.
no.
No.
I don't.
But for me, with this, I think, like, I disagree with that. We only played well against
Exactly.
Villa.
This is what I was going to say next. But
I think the first three games we were very poor, but I'm hearing off from it. No, I think against Burnley and Norwich we were decent, and we were good, especially after Partey came in the 65th minute. But Brighton and Palace we
poor.
weren't good. We were poor versus Brighton, and Palace was a poor game. But yeah, like
It was a very back and forth game, Palace. Like it wasn't like
Leicester haven't been good themselves this season, and we're coming off a very good performance. And we do generally turn up against Leicester recently, anyways.
We always perform against Leicester, though, Chris. Like whether it was home or away, and I always I worry about Leicester, but we always perform against them. In fact, we have one of the greatest records, of any of the top 6 sides against Leicester in recent form. We just do. So while they have very clear threats, and you can absolutely stave that, criticism or pessimism, however you want to pull it. Factually, we've had one of our best performances, the best one of the season, but also, in my opinion, the best of Mikel's tenure. And so I think if you're going to slam him for previous, you have to carry the same energy to praise the benefits. So for me, I kind of just don't look at that comment because I think that we've shown that we can compete. And so it's about our performance on the day.
Yeah, this is the thing. This is what I'm saying to everyone. Look at the teams. Look at how the tactics are set up, and then look at the performance on the day. I don't want to hear narratives. I don't want to hear whatever. Just look at the teams. Look at the team they have. Look at the team we have. Look at how the performance is on the day, and then we'll talk about it. And to do with Ike's comment here, it wasn't really a 4-4-2. It was a 4-2-3-1 because both of our wingers in the 4-4-2 were inside, and Laka wasn't really. Basically, Laka and Alba were rotating that role. Like if you look at the Emil goal, Alba was the one flicking on for Emil. Or if you look at in periods of the first and second half, Laka would drop deep to cover Louise. But they were rotating, so it wasn't a clear 4-4-2. It was a 4-2-3-1. It wasn't really a game where you can say that there was a clear plan to go 4-4-2 because both wingers were high, both fullbacks were high. It wasn't well. It was much more a 4-2-2 than even that's a closer version of a 4-2-2 than a 4-4-2. It
For
wasn't the
me,
4-2-3-1 that can go.
For me, it was a 4-2-3-1. I think people just said 4-4-2 because initially we saw Laka.
They're just doing it because there's two strikers, Chris. That's
everyone
it.
assumed there was two
Yeah.
strikers, but Laka clearly for me was behind Obo like majority of the game, and it was a 4-2-3-1. But yeah, like
And I think it's also because remember pre-game when they were
Old man
warming up,
forward.
when they were warming up, they were. I think they were structured as a 4-4-2 as well. So I think some of the journalists came out and tweeted that we're probably going to come out as 4-4-2. But I don't think we. I thought it was a 4-4-2, but just the way the game went, it definitely did look like a 4-2-3-1. And I came back and rewatched the game. It was Lacazette and Aubameyang switching positions each and every time, and what's his name? Sambi and Party were very close together. So yeah, it was definitely not a 4-4-2, and I don't know where people got that from.
Lacazette followed Douglas Luiz.
So you could bring up the
all
position
day.
map.
We went over this kind of earlier in the pod. So yeah, it definitely wasn't a 4-4-2. Lacazette did a man marking job specifically on Douglas Luiz and was clearly behind most of the time. And yeah, when we did explode, really that is not a 4-4-2. And it's really quite clear, to be honest.
I think we did a 5-4-2 because like Ramsdale was like an extra man.
Oh damn! Ramsdale was incredible on the ball, man. Like at first when I saw he started telling Gabriel, "Come, you take the ball kick," and Gabriel was just passing to him, and he just fired it perfectly into Saka or Smith Rowe, and his confidence has risen a lot during. But like we said it from when he first came out, his distribution, especially wide, is very, very good.
I told everyone it was his best attribute was his clipped ball wide. And so I don't understand why people are now saying, "Oh, he can do it." I get why, because we let perception dominate our opinion of his ID. But look, at the end of the day, yeah, Ramsdale's been immense, and he's actually offering us to really have like a third man in kind of the back line there. Like you don't have to necessarily have Tommy Asu drop deep or even a pivot option when you've got somebody that good on the ball that can fire things off. I think it really changes, how we're gonna progress the ball. Like I think we're gonna have that 2-4-4 a lot more than people think. And really, I love that you have the passing map up, Chris, because when you do look at this, the best thing is the pivot, and the best thing is how close that pivot is. Okay, like that is the issue. So that it's not so much while the tactics have been great and we've talked about it and we broke it down. That pivot and how close they were is vital to why we've changed how good we've been, in the short term, but also in the long term.
Let me just quickly say, what I was going to say about Ramsdale is his distribution was like, if you look at what's been really impressing me is that he's not only just doing it to wide, he's going like he's hit balls to Ben White, like he's really ramming through balls through the center as well. He's not just going to either wing, he's going to both, and it's good to see that he's trying to expand his repertoire. And he's not just leaving it just to go clip. So
Sheffield helped that though. It made him improve his balls direct and more vertical, and his verticality has improved, even though it was an issue in some games like we saw versus Brighton. But it is improving, just like Gabriel was improving on the ball, and our players will gradually improve as the season goes on. But I think that's it. Enough on United. I said United on Aston.
Let's move to United.
Yeah,
because it's time to chat. It's time to chat some shit.
I think
Bring it on.
You sound like you had some auto tune there. I think we should move to United. Today we watched. I think most people watched United versus Liverpool at Old Trafford.
Yes, we did.
5-0 Liverpool win. Like the reaction on Twitter has been not even just Twitter, Instagram, everything has been incredible to see. I think United getting absolutely destroyed, and beating Atalanta midweek, like some guy here predicted. He's from South London, and the other guy from Canada predicted it as well. He's a really
And North.
we don't acknowledge Northwest London here.
Sharp.
But let's add, before we go into United properly, we're going to add Matthew, who is an Arsenal fan, but he gives United prop as well. How you doing, Matthew?
I'm doing good.
Holy.
Yeah, but yeah. So, George, Curran, anyone want to go into it?
Bro, I got this. I don't care. George, I hear you breathe, but I got this. No. Go. You know what? Go. Because I can hear you pout from here, from across the Atlantic.
It's just I think look, today was just the culmination of what many people have been looking at with United, what a lot of the issues are. And for me, I just think when you look at Manchester United and you look at the way that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has chosen to balance this squad and this team, particularly with Ronaldo, it's not been the most ideal way to balance the team. Forgetting the fact that the team itself is constructed horribly. I would argue it's one of the more worst constructed teams really in the league, bar us pre-Mikel. And it was just there for everyone to see. I think there was just a level of difference. There really is no build-up structure. There's not enough competent or close spaces kind of in the midfield. And then when you add on top of it, you got clinical forwards and you've got a clinical forward line that, can help. But the Ronaldo factor does impact their ability to balance the front line, but also to balance their off the field issues for me. And it presents an opportunity, or rather it presents an issue for any manager that's looking to go in there, because you can't drop somebody of his stature. So you're going to have to try to keep him in the front line, but ultimately you just don't have the players or the team to really support him. Their pivot is very, very poor if you're going to give multiple people. Yeah, and if you look at their front line as well, so if you're not going to have a really good build-up structure, you would ideally want people to press, but they don't. They have two of the worst pressers in Mason Greenwood and Cristiano Ronaldo, just factually for number of sprints kind of in the league, which was released by The Athletic. So for me, it becomes very difficult for a coach that's going to coach a press. They can't really do that if you're not going to have build-up and positional play, which is definitely not something for me that Manchester United do. And I think they're going to struggle. And, I hope Ole stays on, because I see this demise continuing. We did say that, in my opinion, top four is won between now and December 4th. I don't change that opinion. And, I really hope that he stays as long as he can, because I don't see an ability, and I haven't seen him consistently change and fix those issues in midfield and those gaps. The same reason I was so upset with Arsenal. I haven't seen him do that for the entirety of his tenure. So yeah, that's really my opinion on United.
I mean, for me, what I was going to say is, no, Ollie's going to stay. It's just going to be, he's going to try and get through this as much as possible. They're not going to sign him, get rid of him now, because he still has the people within. People are still asking for his autograph outside the ground. They're still got the pundits on side. They're just not going to go for him. It's not time for him to go. So I don't think we're in jeopardy of that yet. But in terms of their issues, we said it before in the summer. Like if you're going to be a high pressing team that they want to be, you need midfield security, and they don't have that. They don't have a pivot that works. If you're going to put Pogba in the pivot, he's going to get passed by easily. If you're going to put, say, McTominay and Fred in the pivot, then you're not going to have great progression, and you're going to also get beat in transition a lot. Like, I don't see them having a pivot that is conducive to actually getting a top four, even a challenging for the title type team. It's just not there. And
it's not just their pivot, Curran. It's not just their pivot. It's the fact that Bruno, in terms of the attacking midfield that he is, he's not a person that is going to contribute and build up. You have to find him and let him spam chances. And he's got excellent ball striking. He does. He's not my type of attacking midfielder, but you have to respect what he can do. And if you're going to have that kind of static attacking midfielder who's not dynamic in the middle, then you need a pivot that is dynamic in the middle. You need a Boubakary Samara. You need a Thomas Partey, a Chouameni. You need somebody deep in order to do that. Now, people are scapegoating, Sancho, which is ridiculous to me. On the right wing, we all
Told you
said,
it's going to happen.
yeah, and we all said it too in our United videos. But you know what?
Yep.
You can't have somebody that's a close combination player who performs better on the left, but also absolutely performs with an overlapping fullback. I mean, when you look at Sancho, his limited time on the right that he was successful, it was with Hakimi. And the reason was because he had an overlapping right back that was willing to give him an option. And now you've got Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who at best can be described as an inverted right back, which is ridiculous, but still he is. And so you basically have two players that are going to underlap and no one on the outside. So you just have a mess balance-wise, really. You don't have – they really need somebody, if I were to fix them, really, they need a better right back, probably somebody like Livramento in that mold. But Sancho cannot be playing on the right. He has to be playing on the left. And your right wing has to be more of a touchline winger like a Kareem Adeyemi. And you need a reference in midfield. There's just so many positions across the board that, for me, United really need to improve on, that for the time being, they need to maximize their attacking output, and they just don't have a coach that does that, simply.
And yeah, for me, like since the summer, I've been saying, no, but since last season, I've been saying United to be the team that everyone's saying they will be just because of the names. For me, they needed like 7 signings across the pitch to really become what they should have been. Because I think the money they've spent in, like they've added 1.2 million in wages with 3 players signing this summer, and it's just like crazy to me how much money they spend on such little. I think the first goal today versus Liverpool highlighted a lot in their structure, because their pressing structure was awful. Like Jota was touchline wide, and the person covering him was Lindelof, the right centre back, was touch. He could touch Jota right there, and then Maguire got dragged out because of that, and leaving space in behind, making it a 2v1, maybe 20 yards away from the goalkeeper with Salah and Keita. And then straight away they scored them. That's in the 5th minute of the game. To be that stretched at your home ground was just shouts. Awful structure, both pressing and building.
To add to that, Chris, their defensive action, just really quickly, they're 18th in the league for clean sheets, and they're last in the league for tackles per game, as well as errors leading to shots. So it's not just like their midfield control and their big gaps. They just actually don't have a defensive block that is sustainable long term. Like, it's just almost at every facet of the game, they struggle, bar being attacking efficiency. Bar ball striking and attacking efficiency, where they're excellent in. They don't have positional play. They don't have build-up structure. They don't have the gaps in their midfield that are solidified. And their defensive output screams with those statistics. I mean, Sky Sports put a statistic up there that showed all of their rankings and that. So, I mean, they're just a poor they're not a poor team. They're a poorly coached team, in my opinion. And in fact, I think if somebody were to come in quickly, it would worry a lot more fans, but they've got a lot of work themselves that, this isn't an easy fix. I think
they're a poorly coached and built team. The way this team has been like built, manufactured is so bad, because for me, for years, their main problem has been their midfield. And he's filled the front line with ball strikers, and that will help, obviously, because you can see versus a Leicester, someone can cut in from 30 yards and just put it in the top corner and you're 1-0 up. So that having that option is great. But once a team puts in a block, like you can't just continuously shoot from that far out. Like, it's not gonna work. You're gonna have to have sustained pressure, which they can't do. They have no transition control. So when they do score or lose the ball high up, they can get killed quickly. We saw that when Leicester scored in 15 seconds against them after they scored. Like, they were so poor today.
Chris, the one thing that I'm going to say, just to tie it up, I just find it so ironic, because Arsenal fans, guys, we should recognize this. We saw this with Unai Emery in a lot of his very, very good performances, who had more positional structure, in my opinion, than Ollie, but that can be semantics. But in general, that run was categorized as many people as poorly built chances with attacking efficiency up the wazoo. And everyone was fearful that wouldn't last. And you know what? It came to happen. Like, we've seen this at Arsenal. It's just, I don't understand why they are probably the least modern top 6 club in the country. And, I'm happy for that, as long as that may continue, that's excellent. But, the biggest thing that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had done was he is a man manager who gave that team balance. That was his bread and butter. As much as I've hammered him, his ability to coach, that was his bread and butter. And he did a very good job culturally off the pitch. Okay. But yeah, this is the ranking that, Sky Sports had done, which, I mean, the proof's in the pudding in terms of their defensive ability. But look, again, his balance and his ability to balance a front line and a team was what got him out of this mess. And I said in a preview in the summer, I worry about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's decision making in how to balance Ronaldo. That was my biggest worry when Ronaldo came, and I said it. And you know what? It's been proven here because I don't think he's balanced him once, really. And bar having elite attacking efficiency, that's not enough in terms of sustaining results. That's not a sustainable way of producing, particularly when you're not going to balance the team. So that's why there's been a difference, in terms of how they've performed this season. So yeah, I think they're in trouble, guys. I really do. I don't know how they perform against Spurs personally. City next, like you're looking here, and we highlighted this concern. We did, at the beginning of the season. In fact, we said this is the run that we're going to see a difference. And it's just funny to me that now the timeline from people saying it's ridiculous for us to get fourth and it's ridiculous and it shouldn't even be in consideration. People are now starting to see and say the same things that we have. But look, that's Twitter for you, isn't it?
What do you think, Matthew, on all of this United stuff?
Yeah, I read Ole highly, and it's not very a good look. I didn't get to watch the Liverpool game yet, but from the Atlanta game, I don't think they played badly. They created so many chances, like from Ronaldo, and Rashford missed a few. I think they played well. And in terms of like, when you say the village structure, I think they had a very good village structure going with Wan-Bissaka dropping deep to form the factory, and Shaw was like kind of like dropping deep like on the left hand side, and I also think I was kind of like reactionary when I said Ronaldo was like didn't ruin the balance, because he kind of does a little bit, I will admit, because he kind of like, he's Ronaldo, so like you're gonna have to like play through him, and that's obviously gonna like impact the attackers, Rashford and Greenwood.
Yeah, I mean, the split goals was really the biggest issue I had. But for me, like Matthew made, like in the build-up, look, if Aaron Wan-Bissaka can drop deep, like I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but what I'm saying is he's ineffective at it, and they don't create a structure with overloads in the back often enough. And one of the biggest issues is Aaron Wan-Bissaka's technical ability on the ball. And so when you do receive in those positions, how are you able to overlap? How are you able to create overloads in that position? For me, it's just non-existent. And I think they have a real issue, bar Harry Maguire, who's probably their most consistent ball progressor in that back line that can step out of, their defensive block. Bar that, they don't have anybody in it to replicate that on the right. And for me, that's the biggest issue. The right for United is a chasm, no matter what you do. And in order to fix that, I don't know how they really do it with the current players. It's very, very difficult. But the first thing that they have to do is address that. And, the idea that Paul Pogba is even being considered a new contract, for me, ridiculous. Like, let him go on a free and buy Tchouaméni immediately. Like, that helps you immensely. Buy Livermento.
Let's hope not.
Yeah, let's hope. Look, if you're telling George, how do you fix United? I would buy Livermento, Tchouaméni, and I would buy Karim Adeyemi. You fix that right-hand side and you play Sancho off the left. You have Marcus Rashford, who's an option there. Greenwood's a central striker. Like a lot of these players, Ronaldo is impacting their best players on the pitch, and kind of like how we saw at Palace, where a structure puts our best players in inopportune positions and you get poor results. This is my fear that really Ronaldo's going to do on a much bigger scale for Manchester United. Like they're going to have that more often than not. 9 times out of 10, forcing Ronaldo in the 11 is going to put people that aren't comfortable in uncomfortable positions. And so I just don't think that they've got a midfield also that they can compete. They can't sustain pressure and they can't press. So for me, how are you going to win football matches consistently if you're only going to rely on attacking efficiency, because for me, we've seen that with Unai Emery. Like we had that case study long term. So I worry for them. I really, really worry for them. I don't think that, why did they buy Donny van de Beek? Like, what's the direction? Like, at least with ours, you can question maybe Arsenal's recruitment if it's not your subjective view of how we went, but we clearly had a recruitment strategy, not just in terms of profile, not just in terms of a youthful energy, but we bought players for a very specific system. I can't say the same for United. I don't know how they've been built, and it's certainly not coming from the coach. And the coach hasn't, in my opinion, provided a structure that shows how he wants to play. Like, I don't know who is their main progression. Who do you rely on to progress the ball?
It's Pogba. It's Pogba. That's literally it.
I don't think anybody at the club knows how to play as well. I remember listening to Gary Neville during the game, and he was like, "I don't know why Manchester United didn't set up to counter-attack Liverpool. How can you counter-attack Liverpool with Ronaldo in the team? I just don't understand. Like, this is my biggest problem that with United is the fact that they keep on buying these players. They have no idea like where they're going, but the fact is they keep on buying the big names, so people think like they are doing something right. But in the summer, I was saying that United are 2 or 3 or 4 signings away from actually challenging. But the fact is, they made signings. They did make big signings, but none of them actually addressed the issues, which was the right back, central midfield. Even I feel like they needed a new goalkeeper as well. I don't think they addressed anything. So to say like these players, they would have had an effect on the team, and saying big players is gonna guarantee them top 4. I think that's rubbish. We've already seen like the gap from other teams are already like decreasing. Like a lot of the teams have become a lot better, and Manchester United, I don't think they have gone much better. They've just added a lot more players, and they've just increased their wage bill, which is the only thing that's improved in their team. So I feel like, until they have a culture reset, and that means letting go a lot of their players and restructuring their team, and that includes replacing their manager. That team is going nowhere, and I'm putting my hands down on this. And touch wood, they're not going to go anywhere until they change a lot of things at the club.
The issue for me, the issue, guys, is Ole has undone all of the work that he did to date off the pitch with one fell swoop, with one very dumb, in my opinion, transfer of Cristiano Ronaldo. He has ruined all of the culture progression that he's been able to do, all of the wage constraints or ability to do that. He's ruined it. If you give Cristiano Ronaldo at his age that type of contract, okay, in order to keep Paul Pogba, David De Gea, all of these stars, Bruno, who's coming towards the end of his contract right now, those stars are going to ask for similar money. They've put Raphael Varane on something like £400,000 a week. Like, you
400K,
you can't do that and then not expect players that want to sign for your football club to not ask for similar. And I'm sorry, but wage constraints was the very reason that they didn't address midfield. It was reported very reliably. They weren't able to, in order to commit to Ronaldo, they weren't able to buy a center midfielder. And that was purely from a wage structure point of view. So for me, it's ridiculous. And even if you let Pogba go, you've added Varane and Ronaldo now that aren't ideal for your system on those huge wages. So it's a mess. It really is.
Look, for me, issues. People keep saying, "Oh, but we came second last year, and then we added Ronaldo, Varane, and Sancho. Should be that they're not great signings. So Varane maybe, but even Varane has not looked like himself. Like he hasn't. The last year of his Real Madrid career he wasn't as good as he usually is, and he's not himself. And Sancho, right? You have loaded your left-hand side with talent without addressing the right. You have Paul Pogba, Marcus Rashford. You have Ronaldo who can play there. You have Sancho who can play there now. There's so many players on the left-hand side. If they had just gone, forget Sancho. If they had just got Rafinha, balance it. Try and find someone that right wing who can balance, who can work in your system. Try and find someone who presses well. Why are you paying one of your best 9 prospects at right wing? And the other thing with Mason that's worrying me now is he's seeing the ship go down and he's just going in for himself. I've seen a lot of times when he's just sort of gone on a run and tried to hit it because he doesn't see anything happening in this team. So for me, it's worrying because some of these signings and some of the direction they've gone in, if you're gonna have Cristiano Ronaldo in your team, you're going to have to balance. You're going to have to base your team around Cristiano Ronaldo because he is that guy. He is the guy that will get you 25 goals if you give him the ball. Because if you put the ball on a plate from him, he will score. He is Cristiano Ronaldo. He's one of the top 5 players to ever play this game. That's pretty much clear. So even if he is 36, so it doesn't make sense when you had Cavani doing so well. Why would you buy Ronaldo? When you have players that are coming into that central forward role, why would you buy Ronaldo? It's literally the only reason they did. And we as Arsenal fans thank Pep Guardiola for this, because this was Pep doing. Pep outmaneuvered Woodward and Ollie. He went in for Ronaldo, and then as soon as United started to have any interest, he just pulled it. And he stuck him with them, because Ronaldo would have worked for Pep because they needed a focal point. But for United, they need so much more.
Really quickly, the center back. I've had a quote that we did on the predictions. Ben White would have been a better purchase than Rafael.
100%.
Edmund Tapsova would have been a better purchase than Rafael Varane. Ben Godfrey would have been a better purchase than Rafael Varane.
Yeah, Ben Godfrey.
Yes. Yeah, Ben Godfrey.
I don't know about that one.
Ben Godfrey is a very underrated defender, and he's excellent in aerial ability, and he's very, very good on the right side. He complements Harry Maguire, who's a ball-carrying progressor, excellently. He's a sweeper, and he has immense defensive stats. So he actually would have been a very, very good balancer. Ben Godfrey
and
is going to go to a big club.
You wouldn't have the adaptation. You wouldn't have the adaptation issues either, because he would just slot straight. He just be straight in there, and there'd be no issues with. He'd know the league much better than France. Sorry, so you go, because we need to.
Yeah, I was going to say with Ben, for me, I would have said like Ben Godfrey, Lacroix, who I was talking about in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
That Chelsea probably should have signed as well, or United. But like they're both much better than Varane on the ball whilst carrying the same pace, because that's his main aspect, the recovery pace, and they're much more composed because Varane is very, very, like if you press him high, he causes a lot of mistakes. We've even seen it this season. And Maguire needed someone comfortable behind him to cover the space when he goes up, because it's inevitable that he's going to step into midfield. So why wouldn't it be better for, say he loses the ball, why wouldn't it be better for a player who is more composed and just as fast as Varane, and even better on the ball to cover Maguire, rather than Varane, who's going to come in 40 mil, 400k a week. Like there were many better deals and better players to build as a team, because what you sign Varane now, 4 or 5 year contract, 400k a week, 40 mil like at 28 years old. So you're making him like basically a staple and main man in your team, and you're filling your contracts, and now you're making it harder for yourselves long term to build and buy bigger players, because the next guy you buy, next summer you want to go buy a big name, they're going to ask minimum the same as a Varane, the same as a Sancho, Sancho is on the lower end. He's on 250k, and that's low for them. So they killed themselves with the Varane and Ronaldo signing. But yeah, Ben Godfrey, Lacroix, there's a couple names who I would have rather signed. Picking one game doesn't decide how good or bad someone is, by the way, Ahmed.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
You see that club though. You see United. I think that the best next signing for them would be a director of football, someone that actually knows about transfers, because I feel like that club is just stuck in the old ages. Everything they do, it feels like they keep on getting the advice from Sir Alex Ferguson, which is play the United way and all of that bollocks that comes with that. And the signings they make is probably they just look at the names that have made the biggest noise or had the best performances last season, and then they just sign that player with no freaking plan for the club. And I think they ideally need someone that actually does proper scouting and actually tries to implement a proper plan for that club. Otherwise, this club is just, I don't know. I'm just happy like they're not going anywhere. That's what it is. But they do need to make changes, and it needs to be soon, because otherwise they have money, but they are gonna fall behind in a lot of ways.
Look, see, for me, like the biggest thing is they have to decide what kind of club they are. Are they an attacking, counter-attacking team? Are they a possession-based team? All the top 6 teams are looking at positional play. United don't do it. Mistake, in my opinion. But if you want to do it, that's okay. But buy a coach that fits that system. Don't buy Sancho as a combination player, but then have Marcus Rashford. That's a dichotomy of principle right there. So for me, you have to be clear on your vision, and I don't mind what path you choose, but you need to buy to that vision. So if you wanted to become a counter-attacking team, for example, why didn't you pursue Karim Adeyemi, who I've been screaming about kind of for the longest time here on Twitter? But if you look at the front line of Marcus Rashford, Mason Greenwood, and Karim Adeyemi, for example, that is a lot more fearful than what they have right now. Now, does that fix their issues at the back? No. But then you use that money to go and buy a Tchouaméni. Then you use that money to go and buy maybe a better right back that can help you out. You use that money to better yourself, in my opinion. You don't use it to basically buy a Varane who, in my opinion, embodies the issue with Manchester United. You're buying a name on massive wages that isn't a modern defender in this day and age. He is not comfortable in possession, so you're not going to basically bank on him contributing in the future. But you've bought a name that now fills your roster that prevents you from buying in that position. In fact, guys, Arsenal, we've seen them do this with us. We've put people on big wages that now we couldn't move. We haven't been able to get a striker, Tammy, whether you like that or not. But I use that as an example of the club not being able to buy their targets because of off-the-pitch wage constraints. United are going to be doing the exact same thing. And look, I love it as a rival.
Bigger scale.
Yes. To a much bigger scale, of course.
It was 100Ks, 150K. They've got players on 400, 250, 200 that soon they're going to try and sell. And that's double what we worked with. And it's going to be tougher, much tougher.
Guys, they have similar issues to us as well. They still have like guys like Mata on the books. They've got Matic, who's aging. They've got it's very much sort of like prime players with aging stars. We don't have that anymore, but that's what we did have. Sorry, I shouldn't have said now, but we in the
current their mentality is what we try to do with basically Sven and Raul in terms of.
This is what I was trying to say. Yeah, this is literally what I was trying to say. So, if you were basically, it feels like this team feels like a sort of 16, 17, 17, 18 Arsenal team where we're almost there and we're just trying to get over the hump. We're just trying to get over the hump. Like we can come second, we can come third, and we just think if we just add this player, instead of looking at the team and looking at and trying to address what the problems are in the team. So in terms of looking where the team's problems are, there's 3 main problems in my issues. One, you don't have a balanced midfield. I think that's the major issue. You don't have in midfield because I don't usually use a double pivot, and I've only just started to try to use them. Do you know how hard it is to balance? You have to find the correct profiles. You have to find players that can either progress the ball, the players that can be defensively aware, players that. He hasn't bought one. He hasn't bought a pivot player, and in terms, even if you're not going to buy specifically a pivot player, you're just going to have. You need to have both players together to form a balance, so you can actually occupy the correct zones and do the correct roles in that pivot. He doesn't have that.
Mate, it's simple for me. Football is very, very simple. Where you need to create partnerships. Partnerships win you matches, and and if you want to play with a pivot, you have a guy named Donny van de Beek on your books who's a combination player that can combine with Sancho at left wing very, very well. And in fact, he also what he can do is overlap. And if you actually watched him, he did this with Tadic in 2017. So you have a player, it will take balls, but you have to drop Bruno. I would put Donny van de Beek at the 10. I would buy a Tchouaméni. I would put Fred. You probably need more money to buy a second pivot, but I think you have a lot more work in the back. I would have bought Edmund Tapsoba, who is a little bit weak aerially, but a progression monster. It would have paired very well with Maguire, who's excellent.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you're going to have Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who's an inverted right back that doesn't do well overlapping and provide an option, your 10 has to do it, which is what Donny van de Beek could do. And you have to buy a Karim Adeyemi. For me, those would have been the changes that I would have done. And I wouldn't have maybe bought a Sancho. I would have kept Marcus Rashford, who is an excellent left winger. and be a counter-attack
Let
team.
us buy Sancho, damn it.
He's been in the job 3 years, and
Yeah,
if you look at all his buys and acquisitions, he's got in 3 different strikers in Cavani, Igalo, Ronaldo. He's got in like 4 defenders in Tellers, Maguire, Wan-Bissaka,
Wan-Bissaka.
and Varane, and he's got
Varane,
and Van der Beek.
Champions League Varane.
Van der Beek and Bruno. He's bought no pivot players and no centre mids if he's going to go for a 4-3-3. So
No
he hasn't
right
done
wingers either.
anything for his midfield, and then he sold his only player who is good or decent on the right wing to buy Ronaldo. Maybe that wasn't the decision, but that's what the club did. They sold Dan James to buy Ronaldo. So now they have 3 left wingers in Martial, Rashford, and Sancho.
I didn't even mention Martial.
Who all ideally want to start week in, week out, or will try to start. And then you remove the option, even though I wouldn't do it, you remove the option of putting a Rashford or Green up top with Ronaldo coming in because he wants to play every game. And when you don't play him, he complains and comes off the bench and then has an interview after saying, against Everton, we drew, and to me, that's a loss and stuff like that. And then you have Bruno now undermining the manager, blaming him for the losses, saying the manager needs to change his stuff. Like, he's not him. Maybe it wasn't his decision, but what the club has done over the summer has really killed him. For me,
this will be my last point. But in terms of United, look, so George was mentioning Adeyemi and these guys. So for me, it's quite clear the other 2 issues there is the midfield is just woeful. You don't have the lack of pressing because you have a centre forward, drop Ronaldo straight away, put Cavani back, and I don't even know how you address that right hand side because Mason's not going to press. I don't think he presses.
The only thing that you can do is put Marcus Rashford there, who's done well as an outlet, and you have to milk the Shaw Sancho combination. That is arguably one of the best in the league.
Bring in Van der Beek.
Van der Beek to the 10.
I'd bring in Van der Beek. What I'd do if he's going to keep the 4-2-1, 4-2-3-1, bring in Van der Beek so it gives you the option to at least push Rashford more inside so you can at least see more of the pitch. Because if you do put him on the right, he'll see less of the pitch. So move him as close as you can to the left without him.
And he works well with a combination player in Sancho as well. And he did this for Ajax.
And if you're going to have a player who's going to pop shots on 30 yards, there's not many better in the world than Rashford. So have your front four, because Ronaldo's undroppable. He dropped him one game and brought him on in the 60th minute, and there was problems. So you can't consistently drop him. So you have to make it so that your team can create with and without him being involved. So putting your combination players on throughout the whole front line and just try, because you've killed yourself without Ronaldo and you have a poor pivot, but as George said, you need to maximize your attacking potential if you can't defend, like Liverpool did in, was it 17, 18, 16, 17?
17, 18, yeah.
Crazy offensively. Like, they couldn't defend well, and they just went crazy.
It was the Europa League semi-final.
Yeah, and you do McFred in the pivot. That's what I've said that I would do for now. But then you need to address the pivot in the summer and the following transfer windows. I mean, Boubacar Kamara, who's excellent for us, by the way, but would be a phenomenal purchase for them for free, in addition to a Tchouaméni. Like, there's your pivot for 40 million pounds. What you bought for Varane and arguably Ronaldo in wages is your pivot right there. So, like, I don't know. I'll probably wrap up.
1.2 mil a week is like 50 to 60 mil a year.
Yeah.
So
I would just wrap up that I don't think it's all lost causes. I think Manchester United will always have the financial muscle, that this will never be an issue long term. But again, for me, the biggest thing is they need to get a direction in place. They need to have somebody that knows what they're doing and where they want to take this team. Because across all their managers, they've had different styles of play. They've never had somebody that is able to prepare them for the future. Their squad is very top heavy in wages, but also in experience. They need a huge reset. And I think they're going to struggle for a while until they start to address those concerns. And I don't think that this is going to really change much with Ole, both in the short or long term. I think he gets sacked. I hope he stays longer, but I've always said I think he's going to get sacked very, very soon. But yeah.
I have a quick question.
Yeah. On.
In terms of like managers, I think Conte and Zidane are like the only realistic options. I can't really think of many other ones to replace Ole.
I would do Gallardo, Marcelo Gallardo, who's a more modern coach that also plays in the transition and with a press. So you'd have somebody that has positional play but likes a counterattack a little bit more. For me, Zidane is the best version of Ole, but you don't change the fundamental issue of no positional play. And I think Conte, he's very
As love.
specific to a back three that their squad is horrific for. Like they would need huge surgery to do a back three. I mean, if you want to go that way, but also that back three, we know it doesn't last longer than 18 months in the Prem, so it's not a sustainable managerial appointment for me. I would get Marcelo Gallardo, who's definitely in that positional play kind of aspect, but also he's a counterattacking coach. So you're going to build into the fabric of United. Everybody that has known United, and this may be a little older like me and Curran, remembers them as this traditional winger counterattacking team that, you know, didn't have combination play, but were just grit, strength, and just pure will in a sense. And they were very, very quick on transitions. United have always been that way. And for me, that's in the fabric of their club, and they should return back to that. I don't think they're going to become successful until they do, which is why I want a Kareem Adeyemi, a Marcus Rashford wing combo with Mason Greenwood up top.
The only other option that's out there that, apart from Conte, Zidane, and Gallardo would be a very good option as well, is if you're going to go positional play route, you can go for someone like Erik ten Hag maybe, or someone of that ilk, because people seem to think that the Ajax model could work for them, and they do have a Donny van de Beek who Ten Hag knows quite intimately. The other thing is if you have Ten Hag, you can put Pogba in a 3 again, and he can thrive. I mean, Pogba in a 3 is still one of the best players in the world in midfield, and if you can get to January with Ten Hag and say that on a basis of say Matic, Pogba, and Van der Beek or something like this, and just try and limp your way to January and then get a proper.
They would need a Chouameni and a Rice. Like they
this
would
is
need
what I'm saying.
They need to pick. I think they need to for the future. They need to pick. Like they need to pick between Pogba and Bruno. Yeah. Who's going to be the man we're going to build our midfield around? Yeah. I think it's easier to pick Bruno, but Pogba's better than him. But
no, it's clear you pick Pogba. Mate, he is still elite as a free left center mid.
I know, but I'm saying it's easier to pick Bruno in the sense that Bruno has a long-term contract and Pogba's.
Maybe
Pogba can just go.
Well, he's running out though, isn't he? I swear he's in his second year.
Yeah, Bruno has 3 years left.
But by the summer he'll have 2. No.
Well,
I think so.
January.
He's in his third year.
That's why.
Yeah,
you have 2.5 or something like that.
Yeah, so I think in the summer he's in the last 2 years of his contract, and then Pogba's free, of course. But I would build around.
I'd build around Pogba, but I think they need to
butchered their chance, Chris. They butchered their chance of building around Paul Pogba with the purchase of Jadon Sancho. Yeah. That's the issue that they've got right now. Jadon Sancho's purchase. It's not the only, but they ruined that essentially because Pogba's best ability, again, he needs a Marcus Rashford at left wing type to really thrive. Paul Pogba needs to dominate that left half space. He can't have somebody that comes in and blocks his space. So for me, you need to support him and give him a platform to have a free role in that left half space. But Marcus Rashford is the best player for that. And Luke Shaw is a very good left back to have for a Paul Pogba. He is. So to fill him, he needs a really good sitter like a Declan Rice. And he needs somebody on the right who is like a Wijnaldum and a defensive 8 that can support him, that is everywhere. So a really cheaper version that's a little bit more technical is like, Maxence Cacaret. I don't think Nico Barella would do great with a Paul Pogba type, even though I love that boy. I think they have to go more defensive, than that. And they would have to do a Chouameni. They have to do that kind of setup in a 3 where 2 of them are defensive players to make up for Paul, because he can't pick up and build up. He needs to be free in the final third, but he's not going to be responsible for coming back. So you give him that free role, but you surround him with players that you're like, okay, you know what? You basically have free charge of this team.
What annoys me most about this United team is their fundamentals just aren't there. It's very much like just go to just do whatever you want, just hit the ball as hard as you can. Like, I don't know if you saw against Atalanta, but they were firing balls into each other at a pace. Like, these guys were just like, they were passing each other like they hated each other. It was like they were trying to fire balls to each other it was a mental pace. And in terms of unlocking Pogba, yeah, he's worth it. If you can get the best out of Paul
I don't
Pogba,
think it's just to
it's worth it.
unlock Pogba. I think it's to do all that, like to get one of the best sixes in the world, a defensive 8, and a left wing who will press for him, is to optimize the team as well as him. Because you can get the best of Paul Pogba or something very good out of Paul Pogba and put him in the left half space, but still mess up your team whilst doing it. But to optimize your team whilst him is to make certain aspects of your team defensive whilst other parts help him. But yeah, like for £93 million for them to be 5 years in and not try that is again another awful purchase from United.
I see similarities to Mesut Ozil, guys, so much. A mercurial talent who has not been helped by the squad construction at all, but is a victim and victimized from his pure talent. You're looking at one of the best 10s of his generation that wasn't supported in his prime the way he should. Paul Pogba, very similar, a mercurial talent who, by all accounts, is among the best 8s in the world that was not supported properly. And I'm with you, Chris. Like, it's actually criminal that they had somebody like him and didn't support him well. And look, again, it's not just all of this to unlock Pogba. He's such a unique profile that we've seen this in tons of teams, by the way, of the very best players. You don't think Ronaldinho was supported by the team? You don't think there was multiple players that were trying to give him free reign? You don't think Robert Pires from Arsenal wasn't allowed to have the freedom because we didn't have a double pivot that was Vieira and Gilberto? Like, we do this. Like, teams make concessions for your superstars. I don't think that's the point. I think the biggest thing for me and the issue is nobody has recognized how best to unlock Paul Pogba. That's the issue.
5 years in, though.
Yes, but
the difference between the Pogba and Ozil situation is that Pogba never went against the team or bailed out. Like, Ozil came late and started releasing news, all this stuff. Even though he got taken out of the team, because Pogba did have stints out of the team, he never started releasing news and all this stuff. That's the difference between them, because Pogba is still salvageable. Ozil just became untenable. Completely.
But for me, I think that the best example of saying that we need to not unlock players, but to get players the best out of players is if you look at the Brazil 2002 World Cup winning team. Do you think that Rivaldo, Ronaldinho, and Ronaldo and the R9 had to track back all the time? No, they had Juninho, they had Gilberto Silva, they had players around them that could work and actually get them the ball and defend and keep transitions occupied. It wasn't you have to really look at teams and find a balance in the team. It's not about finding one player. You have to find your best players and get the best out of them. But I think we do need to wrap up right now because it's been almost an hour and a half, I think now. So if anyone has any last points, let me.
Yeah, I think we should go to Z. I know he had a couple last points, but the only thing is maybe we should have a United special, which I think would be. It seems like a lot of the comments enjoyed it, so like we can. I think we're all united on that. Another time, like on a space or something. But yeah, Z, mate, what do you think are your last minute thoughts?
I mean, to be fair, look, I don't have really much to add on. I mean, just looking at United, I'm really happy, like the way they're performing. I want to see more of the downfall, and I want Ole to stay as well. So that's really good. But I think, your idea is really good that we need to just do a United special and and bring in all the United fans, bring in some of the United guests in as well, and let's pick their brains and see what part of delusion that they're coming from. So I really want to see that. I'm Curran. You got to bring those guys in, man. Bring those football terrorists, United deluded fans in.
Any last things you want to say before we go? Or last points before we do the outro?
I'm good.
Your name's not Matthew.
But I'm good just in general.
Go ahead, mate.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah, cool. So you know what, guys? I think BoP You can follow us at BoP Footy, on Twitter. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Guys, make sure that you comment on this video if you do want us to have a little United special. I think that would be a worthy thing. I think it's an interesting debate because I think United right now, they're at a point that their direction needs to change for the better. Like they've been in this weird limbo for so long that maybe that deserves its own special. So hopefully we'll get some good guests, maybe comments, some people that you would like us to get on, and we can debate kind of their direction and where they're going to go in the future. But yeah, you can find me at GeorgeV_AFC. You can find, Matthew at _half_spaces on Twitter. And then you can find Chris at @PureCKK. And of course, you can find Curran at CurranBoP. And of course, you've got Priv Arsenal Z on Twitter as well. Look, guys, it's been good. It's been a long one. We kind of divulged into the United talk, but again, I just want to end Arsenal on their best and most complete performance under Mikel Arteta's tenure, and I'm really excited, looking forward to Leeds, which is coming up. We've got some quick turnaround here, so the content's going to keep coming. And again, make sure that you guys keep the engagement up on TikTok as well, on the YouTube, lol, and Twitter. But yeah, keep it up, guys. Thanks so much for the support, and we're going to push towards 1K.
Last things from me, George finds it very hard or very awkward to say pure CKK. Check out my vlog for the Villa game. I'm 90% sure. I'm 90% sure I'm going to the Leeds game, so I'll probably vlog there. And then we're gonna preview the Leeds game tomorrow. Yeah,
probably
because on Tuesday. So yeah, tomorrow, and then Brighton Arsenal preview on Friday, I believe.
Watford.
Yeah.
You mean Leicester? Sorry.
Leicester. Sorry, I said Brighton. Damn. Arsenal Brighton preview on Friday, but yeah.
Again, Leicester, fam.
Oh. It's getting late.
Bloody hell, you got a blunder there, man.
It's getting late.
Yeah, man, you got to sleep.
See you guys tomorrow, I think.
All right. Bye.